Hello, good people. Welcome back to Ask Miss K. I'm Kay Matthews, your host, and today we're having a conversation that I know many of you need to hear but might be afraid to have. We're talking about leadership while struggling mentally, about being the person everyone looks to for answers while you're privately fighting battles that no one sees. We're talking about leading through anxiety, leading through depression, how to perform while you're breaking inside. If you're listening to this by chances, I'm pretty sure you're someone who others depend on. Maybe you're a CEO or a manager or a team leader. Maybe you're a mother who's the backbone of your entire family. Maybe you're the person everyone calls when they need something figured out. And maybe, just maybe, you're struggling with your own mental health, trying to hold everyone else up together. Here's what I want you to start doing. We have to stop privately fighting these battles. I can also tell you that it doesn't make us unfit for leadership, because we are. This is more common than you think, and it doesn't make you weak or unfit for leadership. In fact, some of the most effective leaders I know are the ones who learn that vulnerability builds stronger leaders, not weaker ones. Today we're going to talk about leading through anxiety and depression, why high-functioning depression isn't particularly the right way to go. Leadership becomes survival instead of service, and how asking for help without losing authority is not only possible, but essential. Because the world needs leaders like us and like you who are authentic, not just leaders who appear to have it all together. Honestly, when you think about the weight of responsibility, right? In real life, you have your own things going on, and when you start having conversations with other people about what they have been going on, depending on what kind of person you are. So in leadership, it can be very difficult to step out of that role in your real life, right? You're a leader all the time. Even when you want to turn it off, you're still on, right? But what we have to do is slow down and understand what do you need for yourself, and the understanding that also you cannot help everyone. You have to have a stopping point, because then you're always on, you're never off, you're always going, you get exhausted, you get overwhelmed. And with that being said, most people don't know that. That's not the person that they see. They see the high-functioning person who's always showing up for everybody and doing all the things, right? That's not going to work effectively for an extended amount of time. That is exactly what burnout is. And so the load of carrying everybody else's responsibility on top of yours, I feel like that's the way we've been taught to live life. Doesn't mean it's been the right thing to do, but we're certainly seeing the effects of that mentality and the rejection of really what rest is. Most people have a ton of, and I say a ton in a real way, a ton of vacation time, right? And most of the time at the end of the year, they're trying to hurry up and use it, when they didn't use it all year long. 11 months, you didn't take no time out for yourself. You didn't do anything that you needed for yourself that required you to take the PTO that you have earned, and yet you're trying to do it at the end of the year. What can you really let go of in 2 weeks that has accumulated for almost a year? I want leaders to think about these things. I want us to be more logical in our thought process around rest, and how it is really the benefit of not just ourselves, but it's the benefit of everybody else around us that we are helping. When we are better for ourselves, we are certainly better to help others.
Explain the isolation that comes with being the person others look to for answers and stability.
You know, it really goes back to the larger question here. How much of yourself are you willing to give? It's really coming down to reevaluating how we see leadership. I feel like as a leader myself, which is why I wanted to start with this topic first and foremost. As a leader myself, I have to understand that at all times people are watching me, right? They are looking to see what I'm doing, how I'm doing, how I'm doing things, outcomes, all of those things, right? That's important, an important part. But to me, what's important is if you are watching me in this leadership position, you are learning and you are experiencing your own growth. Then I am failing if that is not what it is. And so when I think about having a title of being in leadership or being a leader, I take it very serious because it can weigh on you when you have no boundaries. And that's what's important here. Thinking about having boundaries and the understanding of I do have a cutoff. We often laugh about my own personal cutoff. Is I tell people my brain stopped working after 3 o'clock. So you better get me before three, because after that I'm just all I hear is Charlie Brown's mom's voice in my head. Wah 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 wah. Stop. And that's me being intentional. That is me also setting boundaries. And yes, of course, I can work after three. What I'm telling you is that I choose not to. And I'll also share that with you so you can understand that. This is how I am. That's weight reduction right now. So oftentimes I tell folks, you're carrying around a lot of weight and it may not just be what's showing up on the scale.
Right.
And that can oftentimes be more heavier than anything that we can ever experience. But that's leadership, right? That's what they'll tell you. Well, it's supposed to be heavy. You're supposed to just navigate. No, we need to change that narrative. What we're supposed to do is not just survive, we're also supposed to thrive. But if we never see examples of those who make it and those who do of that very thing, we think it's foreign. So then when someone like me comes up and we talk about it and we say it, and it's like, yeah, I don't know about that one. I don't know that how that's going to work. Well, how it's going to work is going to add a couple of years to your lifetime. We only get one life to live. How we live it, what we do with our time is what's most important.
Yeah, and it's okay to say no. Like,
It no is a complete sentence. Just put a period at the end if you're feeling unsure. With
right.
no being a complete sentence.
Because how are you supposed to pour into other people's cup if you don't do it for yourself? Like, you don't take that space to rejuvenate yourself. If you're forcing like yourself to, oh, I'm gonna go to this party because that's my friend, or I'm gonna go to this thing, but I actually really don't want to go. Like, my body's telling me like I can't go. But
Hmm.
like, growing up, you're always trying to like please people or whatever. Like, you can't do that as a leader, I feel like.
No, you're gonna have to draw a line in the sand, in the street, on the freeway, wherever, in the boardroom, in the meetings. You have to have boundaries. Those things are going to be important, an important part of your own leadership, because understanding that all leaders are not the same. They don't lead the same. Their structure is not the same. So you also have to think about what type of leader do you want to be. I am personally the type of leader who I want to see you grow. I would love to see you stay with me forever. But if that's not what the paths allow, then I am that type of leader where I understand. I just want to know, did you learn something while you were here? And did it make you a better person? That's my own personal goal, but that's the type of leadership, the type of goals and the outlines that I have created for who I am out here. Because again, I want to be impactful and effective, but that's because I found my way.
And I truly have a lot of respect for that type of leadership. It's because you have the, I guess I would say, sympathy and maybe even empathy
Mm-hmm.
for, the people who work for you. Like, you want them to grow. It's not like you're like, as much as you want them to stay with you, you're not holding people back. You're truly here to help them as a leader, and
Yep.
that means a lot to the people who work for you.
Yep, skills. We all need to be adapting and creating and learning skills to create our own path.
Perfect. So explain why this is a particular common in high achieving individuals who tie worth to performance.
Work to performance is a thing. It's one that I always say, I'm not a micromanager. I have no energy to stand over someone else to check their energy on a constant. Again, it comes down to what type of person you are. I also understand we don't all learn in the same way. We don't operate in the same way. So some people do need to be micromanaged, although they may say they don't. Some folks do need to be micromanaged, but then there are others who don't. You have to pick a side. You have to pick what's the working environment for you, what's the learning environment for you, and what's the leadership environment for you. As a leader, I have to be able to not micromanage because I am on the go, running a national organization. Home is not often my destination all the time, right? So I have to be able to know that things are operational. I have to trust people. That is the key piece to not micromanaging. When you trust that one will do what you have told them to do and allowed them the space to do it, then there is no need to micromanage. It is simply my expectations would be, I ask you to do this. I'm expecting that it's done. And we just keep on until the next thing pops up that needs to be done. And we go in that way. That's my way of leading and understanding, simply because I'm leading and understanding based off my own experiences. And coming from the corporate world and corporate space, you really had to do things this way. And whether it was centered on me as a person or me as an employee, see, I never call my folks, they work for me. I call them team members. There's language that can be used to make people understand how you really value them, how you really appreciate them, the language and the terms in which you use. Because there are other ways to say this is more than just my employees. I don't have employees, I have team members. Because there are times when we're together and out and doing work, and I'm like, I'll ask them, they the boss right now. I'm working for them, because they're running the show, because this is what they do. This is what they're good at. It's not always about power. I feel like leaders who lead with that power, like that hammer, like you got to do what I say because I'm the boss. First of all, don't call me the boss. That is a term that, again, we laugh about around here because you call me the boss. They already know the eyes get to rolling, and I'm like, I am not the boss. Do not do that, because we take that as a power trip, and that's far from who I am or who I want to be. I never want to be the boss who walks in a room and everybody gets quiet and says, "Stop talking," or they go back to their desk and they scatter, like they're gonna get in trouble. First and foremost, that is a form of micromanaging. Oftentimes, you will not see me throughout. You will see me, you will know where to find me. Let me just say that I'm the type of leader, you know where to find me. But you don't have to see me for me to know, or for you to know that all is well and all is good. That's crazy to me. And that experience of being the person that everyone fears in some capacity, or it will shift the entire, that's not the energy that I want to give off. I talk about shift in a lot of the work. One of my hashtags is make shift happen. The shift in which I mentioned, though, is the shift to make things different, to make things better, to shift into the unknown because we're not doing it, or we don't know that it exists because we're not seeing examples of it. So this leadership term, to me, is such a broad term. And when we expand that out, then we can start to understand what's mentally happening with leaders who are leading in different ways in different structures. Leaders who don't put rest first and foremost. Leaders who may not be intentional with their boundaries. You have to figure out ways to make people understand who you are. Rest is optional, not rest is mandatory, not optional. I actually put it in my email tagline, so you know it's real. So when you see an out of office reply, that's what it is. Maybe I'm not resting, but I need rest from this element, right? So there are so many different ways that we can put things into play to make us better at what we do. We're great, right? Let's just be. When you're a leader, you're great, right? But there are so many things that could make us greater. And if I will lend to say, if you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. You need to move around. You should never be the smartest person in the room. You should not be the greatest leader in the room. You should be aware that there are other people in the room that are greater than you, and you should be able to acknowledge that without feeling threatened by their presence or threatened by what it is that they do and how they do things.
That's a beautiful response to leadership. A lot of people don't really think about that when they think like, oh, being a boss, like I have this power, I can just tell people what to do, and sometimes that doesn't bring out the best in people. I feel like that makes people kind of retreat and just do the task at a bare minimum,
Mm-hmm.
and that's very important to be that for people,
Yep.
because leadership's a choice at the end of the day.
It is definitely a choice, and understanding how your choices affect and impact someone else because they have trusted you when they came to you
Right.
and they asked for your support, all those different things. There's this trust there. And instead of us breaking down folks' trust, we got to figure out ways, even if it's the littlest, minute way, to build trust up in folks, where I'm not just saying, I trust you, you really believe that and you understand that with your whole heart. And so you can go about your day and understanding and feeling like, oh no, this is a real thing. I don't have to question that.
Right. And like I've heard on like other like snips on social media, it's like I'm going back on the point of you talking about how um, you're basically working for your team.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You don't make people work for you. you work for them because you hired them into your company.
Yep.
So you work for them. A lot of people misconceive that and they see it backwards,
Yep.
right?
Hmm.
And
And that's their experiences, though. We see it that way because that's what they've experienced, and they've not been able to have a different sort of interaction. And even if they have, they reject it because it's unfamiliar. We reject the unfamiliar. When it is uncomfortable to us and it doesn't bring us that level of like, ooh, I don't know about this, we reject it. And then, therefore, again, depending on what type of leadership you're under, it's not going to work. You have to be in an environment that works for you, or else you're just going to work and it's just a job.
right, and
And we want to
it's
have more than that. Like, life
right,
is not supposed to just be that. We should want more than that, and wanting it is the first step, but going after it and assuring that you get it is the next 5, 10, 12, 15 steps you'll have to do after it. You'll have to do some work.
right,
Once you set your mind to that's what you want to achieve, just know it don't come easy. You're gonna always have to keep going after it. Even in wanting to start up this podcast. I mean, people have been asking me questions for years. They still do. Not a consultant by chance, right? But even with that, being real about doing, right? The act of doing comes along with a lot. It comes along with a lot mentally. And for me, it's not from a mental standpoint of a struggle. It's from a mental standpoint of assuring that one, I'm not giving more of me to someone else than I have left, nothing left for myself. That's always going to be important for me. That's why timing is important. When am I at my best? I'm someone who wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and depending on, I call them the business hours, it may be 3 o'clock when something comes to me and I wake up and I put it in my notepad and I go back to sleep, right? But naturally, I'll wake up on my own without an alarm clock, right? And so my day starts very early. So by the time most folks get to work, if they're working a 8 to 5 or a 9 to 5, my day is halfway over for me. So I am most productive very early. Friends, everybody else, I am the first flight out. If there's a 5 o'clock flight, put me on it. I don't care if I got to get to the airport at 3 o'clock in the morning. I want to be on the first flight. And why? I can get to my destination and continue my day because I am a morning early start type of person, right? So that understanding is one, again, it goes into knowing what type of leader you are and understanding when are you at your best. Oftentimes I don't think we slow down enough. You are not at your best all day long. Let's just be clear. Sometimes you are tired, which is why I believe in taking naps. I have to stop, pause, make that clear. Naps are important. You only need 15 minutes to recharge your body. Done a study with NASA on it. 15 minutes recharges the body. So if you take a 30-minute break, you've recharged your body twice in one day. But this is why I say rest is mandatory, not optional. But that bigger picture of understanding who I am, when am I at my best, that's the only way I can extend that to anybody, where I can extend that and show up for anybody. And then also, even with knowing when I'm at my best, sometimes I'm still not at my best, right? But being honest about that, I think is what's important. If I cannot show up to you for you, I'm going to tell you I'm not going to be able to do that one. And I don't want you to wholeheartedly ever just 1,000% depend on me. There are things that I am committed to. So in leadership, you are committed to the people who work for you and their families and everything that they have going on, whether you look at that like that or not. You have to be honest about that. That can be mentally taxing at times, depending on what's going on in your environment, what's going on with your business, because running a nonprofit is a business. Or if you're flat out running a business that is not associated with nonprofit work, or if you're running a small business or you're an entrepreneur, there's so many different levels. Here, why I wanted to start with this topic is we do not have to suffer in silence. We do, and that doesn't just apply to maternal mental health. It just applies to our mental health full circle across the board, right? So we're talking mental health, struggling in silence, feeling like, oh, Tony needs me. I have to show up for him. But Kay needs you too, right? So you need yourself first and foremost because that's where the struggle is going to come in for being able to show up for others.
right,
There's going to be a time where they're going to be like, That people never remember the 100 times that you showed up for them. They only remember 101 time where you didn't.
Isn't that crazy?
That is very much so facts though. And that is not okay because maybe that one time I had to choose myself. And maybe that one time I just had to say, you know what? I don't have time for what you have going on because I have to stay focused on what I have going on. Because once everything has cleared, guess what? The thing that I may have delayed because of what someone else had going on still needed to be done, right? So I'm that type of person. I don't have time to pause until I have time to pause.
Gotcha.
But I don't skip the pause. Let's just be clear. I do not accommodate others over myself because at the end of the day, I lose and they lose too. And so I have to find balance. All of this talking about leadership and mental health is really honestly about finding your balance. But you have to find your balance. No one else can do that for you. You have to do that. Or else I also can't want more for you than you want for yourself. It'll never come together that way. It just won't. And so for me to be 100% into a battle with you and you only 50%, that's about as much as you're going to yield in results. 50% of what it is that you're looking for, but your expectancy is that the other 50 is going to come from me. But do the math. That's 150 on my end and only 50 on your end because I'm going to give 100%. But if you're only giving your 50%, I got to carry the rest of yours. How does that balance, right? How's that fair? How do we understand that? And I think even what I told you when I first came in um, today, I was like, you will get to a point where you do need people, and people are in the equation. But as leaders, just know that there are going to be times when you have to do things by yourself. You're building a foundation, and foundation work is hard. That's also the type of leader that I am. What I have been chosen to do in this work is foundational work. That's extremely hard. You think about building a house, right? Everything falls apart if the foundation is not strong. And if the foundation has cracks in it, there's going to be repairs that can be made. The house doesn't fall, right? You just do repairs and you make it better and you do things like that. So we have to think about, are we the leaders that are building a foundation that 30 years from now someone can still come and stand on, still know the principles, still know the mission, still know the why, and build from it? I'm foundational work. I want to build a foundation of this is how you can get things done. And here are examples because we need to visually see, we need to hear, we need to see. All of those things are important. But the foundation never went away. We can come in and we can clear this whole entire land, right? Foundation is still there and build it again. And then come in again and be like, I want to remodel. When we remodel something, right? We may tear it all down, but we don't pull up the foundation. We just tear what was built on top of the foundation. And that right there in itself, if we think about that as leaders, what role are you playing out here? And maybe then some of this stuff can be removed from your plate to clear up the mental space that you need for yourself. Maybe too much of what you're not is on your plate and it needs to go to someone else and not you. Restructuring, what we call the what is it, the self checks. We do 90-day self checks. No need to wait 5 years to figure out something you knew 5 years ago wasn't working. But if you're doing check-ins and self checks, you'd be like, you know what? I realize we could probably make little tweaks right here. Oh, this is going great. Let's expand on that. Let's just make change. Change is something that is the inevitable. It's gonna happen with or without you. Let me know if I have time to grab my purse. If not, I'll buy a new one when I get there. I mean, I don't want it to happen without me. I don't want to be left behind, but I also don't want to be left behind where it costs me something. So then sometimes you do have to be left behind. Maybe that wasn't a part of your journey. And that's what I want leaders to understand about our mental health. Sometimes we're on somebody else's journey. And then we look back and you think about all the things you wanted to do or could have did and should have done. That's because you were in the car going to someone else's destination and not your own. And so the real gist of how we start to focus on our mental health in its entirety is what part of the journey am I on as to the destination that I'm headed to? I stand at a crossroad all the time. It's either do I keep going this way? We definitely don't look back. So back is not an option. Do we go to the left or do we go to the right? Or do we stay where we are? Does it require us not to move? We have gotten to a place where we have an opportunity to slow down. And that's the real thing. When you get into a place where you have to slow down, then this is where you get to see all the things that you've done. Sometimes we miss, and I have been guilty of missing the hard work and how it has paid off and seeing like, if I would have seen this back then, this would have boosted me up mentally and I may not have been struggling or sitting in a headspace that wasn't good and I had to, dig myself out of it. And sometimes dig yourself out of it. I mean, you could have been surface level or dig yourself out of it. You could have been way down and had to dig yourself out of it to come back. And so even when you have to stand still, this is an opportunity to look both ways and look ahead and see, okay, am I moving too fast or am I moving too slow? Or is this just the right pace that I should be at to make this whole thing come full circle, right? So even when we become leaders and we make all these plans, right? True leadership has never really followed the plan exactly. You're going to have to deviate from that plan a lot, right? But not the goal. You may have to deviate from the plan, but not the goal and not the mission. That's why it's important to set them. So when you do take that time to look at it, you're like, oh, okay, the plan is not right. Let me restructure the plan based on the goals and the mission for my own mental health. That is it. Like that's one of the key pieces in leadership that becomes the biggest factor that lends us. We don't take the time to pause, catch our own breath. Even if we have a lot of people depending on us, there still has to be time made for us to see ourselves. Because other than that, people will then have this illusion of who you are, and it's the opposite of who you are. Or they may have an illusion of someone you're not, and it's the opposite of who you are.
And you're human.
And that part, I lead with that first and foremost in introductions. I am human. So therefore, don't expect nothing just over the top from me. My over the top is usually regular for me, but that is not for everyone. That's just who I am, right? But when we steadfast in who we are, then all these other things don't really matter, right? We're doing right by people. We're doing right by things. We're pulling stuff together. And when it starts to feel like it's not, that's your time to pause. It's your time to regroup. It's your time to find who you are. So oftentimes, folks say, I got lost in something, right? That's why, because you didn't have the pause moments. No one said, hey, slow down. Or if they did say slow down, you took it the wrong way. You thought they were blocking you and not trying to, they were haters. Let's just be clear. They were haters. They were trying to stop you from getting your grind on and do all your thing. But no, that could have just been your little angel in disguise saying, hey, you need to stop and breathe and look around a little bit. Catch your breath, catch your balance, and then get back in it.
Right. And it's kind of interesting that going back on it kind of stuck with me of how you start your day early.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, they say like when you start your day early, let's say you block out like 4 hours
Mm-hmm.
just for yourself, because like when you have all these responsibilities, like your team, your business and everything, life things that you have to do, kind of like your
Mm-hmm.
obligations in a way. Like I feel like in the morning when you wake up, you have that time to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very important.
Yep.
And this whole topic of talking about as a leader, you need to have that time. Not a lot of people know that.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just think like, oh, I just gotta keep going, keep going, keep going, and just screw my depression, screw how
Mm-hmm.
I feel, like whatever, like that depressive feeling, just push through it. But that's not okay.
No, because it's energy. You think that you're hiding something and everybody sees it and you're not doing a great job of it. So everybody sees it instead of being intentional, like, hey, I don't got it in me today. The energy is low. I'm quick to say the energy is low today. Give me a minute. Or I'm going to go ahead and leave for the day because that's a real thing too. And that is then also reciprocated. If it's the way my staff is feeling, I'd rather you to say I need to step away from today than to come in and ruin everybody else's day. How many of us have actually worked in environments like that? That is exhausting. It's never the job, it's always the people.
Right.
And I wanted to curate a completely different environment from it's always the people. And I love the job, but I don't like the people who work there. I don't ever want an environment like that. That's never going to work for me because I wouldn't have peace of mind. And peace of mind is priceless. You can't pay for that. You
Right.
have to build that. You have to create that. You have to trust and build upon that. And so without it, I can't do any of this. Let me just be clear. I can't be the leader that I am without having my own peace of mind of things like that.
So like there's a lot of people out there who go through that because people are trying to make money, company obligations, like they need to make this quota and this blah blah blah, all this and that. But like, what advice would you give to people who are actually struggling in that, like who are stuck in that storm, and that storm's like right above them, and they're just like, oh, I just feel like I'm stuck at this job, like I can't go anywhere. Let's just say, like, what would you say?
We'd have to have a deep conversation, right? When folks ask me questions like that, it's like no real quick response. It's let's talk about what's actually happening because probably a good 10 or 15 minutes in, I can figure out exactly what you need to do. But it doesn't matter what I figure out. You got to figure it out with me. And you have to be willing to take the steps because they're your steps, not mine. I
It
can
goes
figure
back
it
to
out
that.
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can figure it out for you, but I can't want it more than you want it for yourself.
Right.
And so then the question then becomes, are you just having a bad day?
Right.
Is this really what you want to do? Do you really want to leave this place? Do you really want something different? Do you really want something more? But when you curate opportunity for people to feel that way, then they know when it's time to go. And as a leader, let me be clear. I don't say that I'm not sad when people leave. I am sad. But I'm also just as sad as I may be. I'm just as happy because look at you out here doing great things
Right.
and building and making your own path and finding your own way. And again, my only response is, did you learn something while you were here? Did I give you something to help you that will carry you or be impactful or something that you will, always remember or remind you when you are in an environment and be like, no, I know things don't have to be this way. Did I at least give you that enough to know what you will take, what you will put up with? Because again, there's no energy, love lost when someone leaves. Although in other companies and ways, people feel some type of way when you leave. Instead of being like, oh, that person is they're going after what maybe they want to do, their dream, or just trying something different. If you leave a company the right way, they'll most often welcome you back in. But if you left in a way that didn't make sense, then mentally, how do you actually think that they are going to want you to come back? Mentally or physically, right? So understanding all of what that encompasses in many ways is, do you need to make a decision or are you having a bad day? Are you really ready to move? Because again, that is the decision. Or are you still willing to put up with whatever you're willing to put up with? We'd really have to have an in-depth conversation, 10 to 15 minutes. That's in-depth to me, for me to figure out everything I need to know to, help you to make a little mini plan. But you'd have to execute it. So then my thing is, are we wasting time or do we just need to go to happy hour and you'll be okay tomorrow? Because that's a real thing too. A lot of leaders, this is why it's taxing on our mental health. A lot of us pour a lot more into people than what they really need. And then they go and do something different. And then we're like, I thought we just sat here and had a whole conversation. And then you went and did the complete opposite. And then here we are, because you'll be back again, asking me the same thing in the same way. And yielded no results. It's just driving us both insane because I'm sitting here listening to it. And then there's going to be a time when I'm going to stop listening. Because
Right.
again, I can't want it more for you than you want it for yourself.
Right. And those environments push people to like. I mean, it falls on the individual. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how are you gonna grow from that situation, or are you just gonna get stuck there?
That literally,
Right?
growth
Um,
is the ultimate goal. Growth is the ultimate goal because this is how you find balance in your mental health. This is how you become a better leader for yourself and for others. I cannot say this enough. And sometimes even when I'm saying it in my own head, because y'all remember, I don't talk a lot. I talk enough. But even when I'm saying it to others, I'm saying it to myself. I'm not going to give you advice or share anything with you that I don't give to myself or that I don't remind myself of doing as a leader because I'm not exempt because I'm human, right? And that's leadership. Like, that's true leadership for me to understand. Don't just say things to make people feel good. You're going to have to say some stuff that's going to make them think. That's going to have to probably hurt their feelings. There's a combination of things in the way we do. But when we lead with genuine compassion, first and foremost, you don't let that trump how you engage and interact. Like, I'm just not this soft person. I'm actually very straightforward and to the point. This is what needs to happen. And then on the other side of that, how can I help you do that? How can
But
I help you get that done?
that saves so much time.
Right. Time is the one thing you can't get back. So
Yeah.
why are we wasting so much of it?
Because you're getting to the point
Mm-hmm.
and you're not sugarcoating it.
Mm-mm.
And
And I'm still going to help you.
and then at the end of the day, it's just sometimes it's like how does that person take it? Right?
Right.
And it kind of like going back to it falls on you.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm gonna come to you and I'm gonna tell you this and that, but it's on you how you take it.
Yes, it's how you take it, how you receive it. So how we receive things also depends on how it was given. That is important. That is one thing in leadership that we miss because we have a boss mentality.
The
This is
words
why
we
I
say.
am clear that I am not a boss, because that is a power struggle that is doing this. And so if I tell you this in a rude way, I'm your boss, so you just take it. No. Giving and receiving is supposed to be an even exchange. So I need to give it to you. Maybe it's blunt, but it's not in a harmful way. It's straightforward. So again, I don't have time to waste. This is what needs to happen, all those different contexts. Then a follow-up of how can I help you to get there? What is it that you need? Instead of just saying something blunt and then walking away. That's receiving something that you don't actually take into account of, like, I don't care what she just said. You could walk away like, I don't care what she just said, because it was received, it was given in a way that you didn't receive it, right? So then it became pointless. And now everybody's time has been wasted. But when we are leading people, we have to understand that, how did you tell them? How did you talk to them? And when did you say it? And then what was your follow up? You know, we often want employees to follow up. But as leaders, what was your follow through? That's the question. You want them to follow up, but what was your follow through? And did you follow up? There's so many questions that we have to start asking ourselves that we expect others to do and to engage and do all these things. Let's start asking ourselves, what you doing? Literally, what are you doing? And when you don't have a boss mentality, that doesn't bother you. You know, that's the other part about that. When you don't have a boss mentality, someone saying, well, this is happening because this is something that you're not doing. This is happening because we needed more support over here. So being asked, what are you doing, should be like a time for you to pause. It's like, sometimes you get that, yeah, you're right. Let me think about that. And not let that affect you, not reject that, not go into a mode where you don't tell me what to do kind of thing. There's so many levels in leadership that we have to talk more about, not just the good and the bad, the good leaders and the bad leaders. What makes a good leader? What makes a bad leader? What are the traits? What are those things that you see? And even a good leader has bad traits, and even a bad leader has good traits.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
Because some of the bad leaders get things done sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And they get them done in a way where it's like,
Ew.
yeah, like, no, why you have to do it like that? And then the other side of you, if you're in leadership, you be like, I mean, I understand why they had to do it like that, but why they had to do it like that? Like, you understand it, but still, there's always gonna be a way or a better way to do things. But when you need to get something done, oftentimes you have to put folks' reactions to the side. It's like, I'll deal with that later. I'm about to do this and get this thing done, and then I'll deal with how people feel about it later. But that can apply to everything, though. This is when we start leaning into bad leadership. That can apply to everything. Not in everything you have to do it alone. There are some things you do have to do alone, and that's okay. But that's not everything. And so you can't have that mentality across the board with everything. Then you're one woman, one man stop show. You just got all the things handled. You don't need anybody. And that's not true. That's not facts. There is a time in leadership when you will have to do some things by yourself. But that's just setting the foundation so that people don't come into janky things. I do not like to come into things that are not structured. They don't know what you want to do, unless you come into something and I say, we're about to build this together.
Right.
But if I have you coming into something that we're going to do together, I should already have a blueprint. I should already have something laid out that we're going to at least have a starting point from. Those dynamics are always going to be important because other than that, this is why we lean into misunderstandings of a lot of things because
Right.
we're not clear on actually what we were doing. Like, oh, I already built the foundation. Now we're going to do this thing together. Or no, we're going to build the foundation together. So when you are team, so I'm team minded, I know when there needs to be 5 team members or 10 team members, or there just needs to be a leader, and then I add to the team. That's why I'm team oriented because, again, there's so many steps in building that you have to figure out what part of the playing field are you in.
Right.
And for me, leadership is team building.
Right.
Literally, that's it.
Very important.
Yeah, it's very important.
You don't just lead people into like war without knowing what they're getting into, basically.
Correct.
That's what the whole foundation thing you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That's very big. People don't see that sometimes.
Nope.
And that's
Foundation
why
is
there's chaos.
key. Exactly. Foundation is key. And nothing happens overnight. The overnight success is what, 10 years? So nothing happens overnight.
Right.
It's just happens to happen overnight.
Yeah.
But it is because of the work that has already been done prior to that overnight success opportunity. Overnight success is an opportunity that presented itself and you were ready for it. You were prepared for it. You didn't have to get ready. You were ready. That's it.
Right. And you make it easier for your team.
Mm-hmm.
And they have respect for you.
Yep.
Which they'll work harder
While
for you.
also making it easy for yourself. Like that's the key here. I be trying to make things easy for myself. I know everything don't have to be hard. I can tell you that you don't have to step on that rock, but if it's your time to step on the rock, go ahead and feel that pain. So you at least know what it feels like. And the next time someone says, don't step on that rock, you be like, woo, thanks for letting me know. And you go around it, right? But that's not all lessons. Some lessons you have to learn them head on. That's just what it is. But that's not everything.
Yeah, it's kind of like saying you can say it blue to the face.
Yeah, we don't have to always be in chaos. We can live in organized chaos. That's real life, organized chaos. But everything doesn't always have to be chaotic in that way. Because then what? Then what are we actually doing here?
I also think from what you're saying, like these are all things that you've learned throughout your life. You can't just wake up and be like, I'm gonna be the best leader in the whole
Right.
world.
No, no, we are not all just born great people. Come on now, y'all. Let's just be real. Camera zoom in. No, we are not. We are not just born great people. We learn lessons, and for as long as I have been out here, I had to learn to do better by people. I had to learn that the very thing that I want for myself, I have to give to others, but not at the expense of myself. And I learned that because it was always at the expense of me. I would do right by people and then I would get burned. And I didn't want that to turn into hate or turn into this is always how it's going to be. So I created who I am from past experiences of learning and doing my best when it's all said and done. I don't always get all the things right, but I certainly don't get all the things wrong. Let me be clear. Because oftentimes in leadership, that's also what's missing. We don't give ourselves enough credit. Our credit has to come from ourselves and not always from others. So I remind myself of the great person that I have grown to be and continue to work towards being. I have continuously and will continuously work on my leadership skills, taking advice, learning from other leaders, learning from hiring business coaches, all these different elements of learning because if you stop learning, then you stop growing. And learning for me is a continuum. It is nonstop. It is something that will always need to be done. So I don't ever stop learning. My goal is to be here, as I always say, as long as I need to be, but also not just as long as I need to be, but be here and be effective at what it is that I'm doing and how I'm doing things and being genuine and not sugarcoating anything. And sometimes you do need a little sugar. Don't get me wrong. You need a little sugarcoating. It's like, well, that was bad, but then here's the good part about that. But when things are bad, they just bad. Hey, it was bad. But then if there's a way to find a little, little sweet spot and sprinkle that on there, to keep the people looking alive and, pushing forward, then I'm willing to do that as well. But that's balance. That's knowing when that needs to be done. Because I'm big on energy, people will tell you all they need to know in their body language, how they show up, how they leave, how they stick around, all those things. We can never really honestly say um, that we didn't know something was happening with somebody. It's just were we paying attention or did we care enough to address it? That's
Right.
really what that comes down to being.
Yeah, and that's what I have a lot of respect for that because I feel like that's what makes you a better leader
It
than
is.
most. And it's not about comparing about, oh,
Mm-mm.
I'm the better leader than
No.
you, but it's genuinely, in my opinion, that's really really good leadership.
Thank
Really
you.
really good leadership because if you don't have that self awareness to like try to grow or try to grow for your people or or what things you're trying to do,
Hmm.
then you're just gonna be stagnant as a leader. You're just gonna be like you might run into the same results of like, oh, people are like you're seeing that your employees are quitting like every other day
Hmm.
or like every
Hmm.
other week or
High
whatever.
turnaround. It's like turnover. High turnover. It's like, oh, dang, I thought they were. No. Longevity is one that we oftentimes try to measure success by. You could be doing something for 15 years and be the worst at it. You just was like consistent with doing and being the worst at it. I mean, just saying. That's facts. So, think about that as well. So, doing something for multiple years doesn't mean that you were getting it right or you were doing it right. It could be the opposite of that, right? You just been out here causing harm for a long ass time, and people didn't actually let you know that flat out. So you thought that you were doing the right thing, and so we can't be afraid in leadership to tell another leader when they're being harmful, or another leader when it's like that's not working, or telling another leader, "Oh, I look up to you. You be doing great things. I love that. Like, thank you for showing us examples of what great things look like." Or when things are just hard and you're saying that they're hard and that's just what it is, and you keep moving forward while also acknowledging that these things are hard and today I'm going to be off or next week I'm going to be off or I'm going to take a month off and it will be okay because I have never not taken a day off and came back and the work disappeared.
Right.
Actually, I just had a lot more work to do.
Yeah.
But I got rest to do the more work that had come while I was off. It's also how we have to think about rest. The work's not going anywhere. You're going to come back to more of that. But are you rested enough to deal with what was to come anyway? It was coming.
Right.
It's just that you didn't break it down, right? You had a stack when you left, you broke that down when you came back. You had two stacks. Well, the other stack was coming either way. It's just that you were actively breaking it down, so it never got to be in two stacks.
Right.
So, in other words, the work will always be there. Take that break, take that rest.
Yeah.
Do not wait 11 months for a 2 week time frame when you could have broke that out. The internet, for what it's worth, can teach you some things. People have come up with creative ways to show you how to take your vacation days and mix in with a holiday to get extra days. There's so many ways that we can incorporate rest to have our mental health be a lot more stable than what it is. Because here's the thing, also, leaders that are listening to this or watching this, we are harmful when we are not our best, not just to others, but we are harmful to ourselves when we are not rested and we do not get what we need and we watch others do what it is that we have also the ability to do for ourselves. I hate to see it.
Yeah. You can't do anything with if your cups full filled and then you're
You
just
should
gonna
only
pour.
operate from your overflow. That half cup full, all that overflow. Nobody should be getting more than you have for yourself. And when you have no more overflow, then stop, pause, fill back up. So you're just giving the overflow.
Yeah.
Um, and yes, hard to do, but doable. Let me just say, I have to acknowledge that for the person who says, oh, that's easier said than done. We say so many silly cliches that drives me crazy. We just say things that we've been hearing all our lives. Our parents may have said it. We heard somebody else say it, and we just keep saying it. I want us to kind of break up the monogamy of some of this stuff because it's just crazy. Like,
Yeah.
stop saying that stuff and continuing to perpetuate that type of harm.
Right.
Yeah, no.
But like, not you don't even have to be a business owner to even be listening to this podcast or this advice, because leadership comes from leading yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
And like, this advice I feel like goes beyond just being a business owner or anything. Like it's you as a human being
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day.
Yep.
Pouring that into yourself is the most important thing. Making sure that you're good and loving yourself.
That's it. Literally, yourself. Selfish. Being selfish and understanding that you come first and foremost. All of these things won't work unless you do, right? And unless you get these same things for yourself. That's what's super, super um, important. I'll lend to just thinking about how I started. I've been an entrepreneur all my life. Let me be clear. I couldn't do a podcast without saying that. I've been an entrepreneur all my life. When I was in kindergarten, I was selling my Easy Bake Oven cakes to my friends. Let's just be clear. Your girl was out here, okay? So I've been an entrepreneur in business for a very long time. I have experienced a lot of things that have shaped me to be the person that I have longed to be, still working towards being, and who I am as I sit here sharing this right now. It's all because of the lessons that I've learned. I've lost a lot of things in business simply from putting people's needs first and foremost. And I am a firm believer when you learn something, you're supposed to take that knowledge and do better. And so this is where I sit right now. And I've lost a lot of things. I've been a lot of things like homeless, no car, riding the bus, doing all of those things, never exempt, always human. But learning from, oh, that's not going to happen again. Oh, I'm going to always have this. I'm going to always have that. I'm going to work to make sure that this happens, right? So when we understand from that perspective, as again, always have been this entrepreneur and then moving into nonprofit work and understanding that a nonprofit is also a business, right? So there's some business aspect of it that really come into play. But oftentimes we think the humanistic side of running a nonprofit, right? Like you're always supposed to be this, you're helping people, right? So you're supposed to be happy all the time. Even that level of stress is crazy because who's supposed to be happy all the time? That's not realistically possible. I don't want to be happy all the time because that's one emotion. I do want to always experience joy. That's a different type of emotion, right? But my joy can also come in sad moments.
Right.
I can also have the reality like this is happening and this is sad, but then there's this level of joy that exists that is like, yeah, I know you're sad, but then this is better now, or this
Right.
happened because of this. And so the understanding of the emotional struggle that exists with us as entrepreneurs or us as leaders or those of us that are in control of someone else's well-being, right? The understanding that we have to first and foremost understand what we need for ourselves. Other than that, we're just showing up and we're
Yeah.
going to get tired. And then we're going to be like, I'm not doing that anymore. And the people won't understand why. And so being as honest as you can about what is happening, I mentioned that in the beginning, is that, struggling mentally is not a weakness. It does not take away who you are and your ability to lead. It's your opportunity to pause, to get what you need, to acknowledge what it is that you need, and then continue to go forth with helping other folks.
Right. And respect, because the word motion is an emotion, and
Hmm.
emotions move, and you can't be happy. That's weird. Like
Yeah.
if you're super happy all the time.
Yeah, you have to find what you have to go with the flow, and emotions are ever changing, and you shouldn't always have to hide them. There is a controlling mechanism that has to come into play. Let's just be honest about that. But ignoring them and pushing them down and pushing them away, oh, they're gonna pop up, and they gonna pop up at the wrong time. And then people are gonna be like, oh, she had a mental breakdown, and she probably did because there was not space for her to release the load,
Right.
to not carry so much, to understand that you don't have to do this. What is it that you need, or what is it that we can help you to navigate? There's so many things out there happening with leaders in so many different ways that I felt like I am someone who looks at an issue and says, how can I help and what can I do? But I don't look at every issue. Look, y'all, I'm only going after things that are for me, that have my name on them, things that are part of my own destiny and my own path. Not doing things to just do them, again, doing them so that they are impactful. And when I see that we have issues within that we can just talk about, let's talk about it. This is like the first step towards that. I plan to have, many more conversations that lead to other folks sitting on my couch or joining me from their own space and having these conversations so that we shift a very negative narrative, shift a culture of narratives that have existed that have caused us harm, shift into narratives that bring us joy and happiness that lead to greater outcomes. There's this shift that is happening, that has been happening. And my overall goal is to shift more people into something greater than they ever even expected or knew could happen. But they will see examples of it. We will talk to people from everywhere around the world is the ultimate goal of the Ask Miss K podcast. Your girl always out here in these streets traveling. That is one thing for sure. I am rarely in this good old great state of Texas a lot. It is home, but I also call a couple of other places home because I know good people and great people. And my overall goal is to have those conversations with them to continue to do storytelling and to continue to show other examples of what we don't see all the time and that they do exist, because I think that's the only way that we really truly shift what is happening right now into something greater, into something better, into better lessons learned when it's all said and done. So I want to close out definitely with a call to action and share this episode with a leader. Someone that may need to hear what has been talked about. Share with a mother, share with your sister. This is a community call to action that I want us to share this out so we understand both the business side of it, the natural, we're just human side of it, and our emotions that come into play, because we talked about so much in this episode that anyone listening can take something away from this. So share this episode out with everyone that is within your network, and we will see you next time on the Ask Mrs. K podcast.